practice on World's Edge. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Game 3, our last game on Storm Point is here. Will Ascend continue with their consistency alongside Aurora, or will we see other teams like Phoenix Legacy, currently down in the standings, bounce back? Totem and others, we'll keep a close eye on each of them as we throw it over to Onset and Gaskin to call the action for game number 3.
Here we go then, game number 3, the final one on Storm Point, and 2 different winners with 2 different amount of points put on the board as well. Means that we have a lobby which is still very much wide open for everyone. If one good game comes your way, you can fly up that leaderboard down before we, of course, move over to World's Edge. My interest now is going to be piqued when we do see where that zone is popping. We know there's no contesting going down out of the dropship, but for me, like you were saying, the story coming into today with the work that you've done was the zone means wins, and it really is as simple as that. As we do see where that zone is going to be, maybe we're going to see a little bit of checkpoint come to the play here.
Yeah, checkpoint could be good for, well, Phoenix Legacy, who are dropping right there. Or was it High Peak? I couldn't really tell because of the colors, and maybe I'm a little bit colorblind, but either way, whoever was there dropping a checkpoint is going to have a fantastic opportunity if it moves that way. And it's so important if you have a beacon, of course, because then you can get that extra info and it will give you a little bit more comfort. Because sometimes you can bank on a circle pulling your way and then it just doesn't. And then you find yourself in the worst position possible. And I tell you what, we've already seen a little bit of a fight happening. Maybe there was some solo players just having to play on the right.
I mean, VZD, who are playing as a duo today, we know the story behind that. If you don't, go on G Dolphin's Twitter. He'll tell you for himself, as we do see they managed to pick up a kill. So they managed to drop in a position where they managed to at least even the odds for a 2v2 with the team that was in front of them. And now they're just, this is what we call ratting. They're hiding in corners, waiting, seeing if anyone tries to come for that banner. And if they do, then Bitfix Gaming, they might get ambushed.
Yeah, it's a little bit frustrating when you do spread yourselves over a kind of POO like that and you have to then take a fight in a 1 versus X. Could be worse. It could be in 1 versus 3, but in 1 versus 2, it's still going to be a pretty bad situation for them. But we'll see whether they can get that banner in a 2 versus 2. At least they maybe will have that information because the death screen might have showed that it was just the 2 players around them. Anyway, Scars are going to be moving on up from Launchpad and heading towards the center of the map, as are a lot of teams actually. Everyone is trying to rotate very quickly, as we had presumed, as we had assessed from week 1, how important it is to do so. The big thing is going to be those teams who are a little bit further away, a little bit further out, down towards or up towards Lightning Rod, for example. That's going to be very far out at the moment. So then you're going to have to try and play Edge. And we know how difficult it is to play Edge with the current meta, with the amount of seers that are usually in the lobby as well that you feature. So you are just going to have to be a little bit extra careful when you're making your way through the map.
You're also seeing a lot of Gibraltar-less compositions, excuse me. Compilations? It's not a CD. In comparison to what we used to have for esports, though, at the moment, the greatest hits might not be looking too good for them because a few bullets have, unfortunately for them, taken down Taylor, and Noth also has taken a huge amount of damage. There's a grenade that's just been rolled in that door as well. Kuya gets the shield cell off, but this is not looking comfortable whatsoever as Noth goes down. It's all going to be on the hands of Kuya, the new addition. Even though he gets the jets going and he gets them burning, you have to worry here. This could be the end of the game for him. He gets booted off the door. Oh my goodness, that was a heavy right foot on that door. My goodness.
I'm going to right foot like that since David Beckham in the England squad, but now Turkish Stars going to be under a little bit of extra fire as well. The third party's come in, some good shots from the Turkish Stars, but unfortunately it is not enough. It's Ascend who joined that party late. They pick up the extra KP, and Ascend, who have been the kings of the rotation so far in week 2 of Pro League, carry on doing the same. Find teams that are struggling a little bit. They're a little bit weak on health, and they make it count.
I mean, that was a lot of action happening in a very small space. It's a little bit like a weird underground nightclub that you find in Berlin, just a small room with a lot of music pumping and a lot of activity, to say the least. But for now, Ascend, they're going to be hitting the dance floor hardest because they have the kills in their hands. They have the position that they obviously wanted to take inside of this affectionately known as Nut building, because it looks like a nut.
Enemy there.
And now Ascend, they're going to be, just like the pause there, and R301 is going to be in their hands too.
And Ascend, where they dropped, you know, Jurassic Park, right in the middle of the map, when they saw a circle like this, they probably just got their ears to the ground. They said, let's find some fighting, let's see if we can pick up some KP. It's so difficult for us to predict this circle at the moment, so instead let's try and take advantage of perhaps some fights that are going to happen inevitably in a very difficult circle for people to predict, because this one could pull either way. When it's on the edge of Storm Point, it's usually a little bit more predictable. We usually know how it is going to kind of pull, but this one is a little bit more tough to call.
But the way that the teams are starting is set up, though, you would imagine it's going to be a slightly more southern pool by the looks of things. A lot of teams you can see on your map overhead already made their way down to this southern side. KCP a little bit slow on their rotation here, probably taking a little bit more time to craft, realizing this isn't a favorable zone for them to get one of those priority positions, having to travel down from the very northern tip of Storm Point here. So keep your eyes on KCP. Going to be interesting to see how they approach this game in comparison to how they have the last few, where they've had a pretty easy access to zone in comparison to what they do now.
Yeah, a lot of teams banking on Barometer. We saw a Barometer finish last week as well. And it was a difficult zone for those teams who were coming from the northern side because all the southern ones had taken the priority position. So we'll see if it happens again. Scar's looking like they're trying to just maybe get rid of a few Watson fences here or there. Let it be known that their presence is more important than the other teams nearby. But Aurora, a team who really showed us an impressive rotation with their slightly off-meta composition. Can they do it again here? They found themselves in a good spot. And it's such a good fighting composition as well. I love seeing Wraith being back involved. I know that so many players are so good using her as a legend. So we'll see whether she can do some damage this week.
Well, V2 now making their way forward. You can see that they had a Seer ult down. They had the Horizon Q out, the gravitational lift. And at the moment, VZD, well, they're just trying to get away and get out of danger at the moment because they are being chased down. I think they've been recognized as a duo on the map. And even though they've got one KP to their name, V2 recognize that it is just 2. So they're just trying to think if we can get in a good position here to get damage down and chase these down. This should be 2 KP. We should be able to convert without too much of a problem.
And a huge chance for Ascend to continue their lead at the top of this leaderboard now, because we saw obviously the elimination of Foot after their amazing game number 1. But you see the highs and lows of Apex Legends. You can come first in one game and then suddenly almost dead last in the next. So it's about now trying to take advantage of this. If you are Ascend, if you are like Pioneers, you know, the 3 teams that we've been looking at and highlighting as very strong throughout this tournament. Speaking of the Pioneers, they're making their way slowly. They're going through Jurassic Park at the moment as the circle does pull slightly down southward towards Barometer, so a lot of people have banked correctly. Probably going to be difficult for those who aren't in the circle now to find a good spot, so you really are going to have to take your 3v3 fights in a way that you don't allow other teams to third-party you too easily.
Scar's one of those teams who are in a good position. Pioneers taking a lot of damage at the moment. You can see that Strafey's going to have to cross at the moment. You'd hope his 2 teammates, Nasky and Del, can provide a quite amount of cover to get him across that open ground. For now, those Scars, who were in a good spot, are now in a horrible spot. Being pressurized, but 99 and a knock with that Peacekeeper is certainly going to help. Taishin, he loves the longbow, he loves the Sentinel, but now he's going to have to take a second to use the Peacekeeper to reload. They will win the fight. Taishin should be able to get the armor swap, but now you're going to see a third party coming in.
Third party comes in. Can Taishin do the unthinkable here? No, he can't. It was all but a dream, as it's Aurora once more, showing how quick they are to enter a fight when they know there is potential for KP. Their rotations have been on point, and also their engagements have been so accurate at the moment. They've timed it perfectly each time, and now they'll pick up some extra KP because of it, but unfortunately it means Scars will fall.
Scars having a bit of a slow start here, and you got to say, maybe to be expected with a new lineup. It takes a bit of time to find the intricacies of how you want to approach the game, what composition you're going to feel comfortable running, all these things. It'll take a little bit of time just to get down as a squad and make sure that you're on top of before you can even expect to put in a performance in a lobby that is so stacked like this. And this is something we should highlight as well. You know, Pro League being cut down from 40 to 30 teams means that the lobbies, the intensity in these lobbies is higher than it was in the last split down. Every single team has had to work even harder to be a part of this.
Enemy spotted.
Yeah, I mean, no disrespect to some of the teams that featured last year, but there were weak links around that were maybe taken advantage of. Some teams started dropping near them, tried to get some free KP. I can't really say the same for the lobbies that I've seen so far. Everyone proving their worth, everyone proving they deserve this spot in Pro League and making it a difficult fight whenever you engage on them. So there is not going to be any sort of easy fights whatsoever. So you really have to take every precaution to make sure that you are getting into those fights at the right times, just as Aurora have been doing.
Well, looks like KCP are making their push. I want to jump into a listening as the fight breaks out inside of this building.
Max, go break their gen if you can.
It's
Like
hard.
from a window or something. This.
I can't really destroy it, I can't.
I'm peeking window right now. Back one or low.
Back one. Can you
Back
get
one, back one, back one.
I'm peeking.
Can you do something? Baby.
They're dead, they're dead.
You cannot just sit there with your finger in your ass, bro.
Shut the fuck up.
Shut up, shut up.
Please, I need you to fucking do something. You're Valk, fly in the windows, get angles.
I need lights.
I can drop all my light and I'll pick up this flatline.
Okay, give me.
What was up if you didn't ask to like go stairs together?
Extended light mag.
Yes, I said peak stairs together. I don't said push from stairs. I said peak stairs. Maybe we can get a finish or a knock. Also, they are only a duo.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All right, we'll jump back in. I'm not quite sure how I ever match the intensity of a Pioneers listening, Dan, but certainly some interesting techniques being suggested to finish that fight, but it was effective.
You can't match it, no, but they do bring it back down. It very much goes from high intensity to low intensity. They were like, by the way, it was only 2 that we killed. They were like, yeah, let's go. It was only 2 players. They have to bring themselves, ground themselves, so they can get ready for the rest of this game. 13 squads remaining. Less squads than we saw at this time in the previous 2 games. We saw a lot more early fights this time. Teams may be getting caught off guard as they're rotating. Speaking of, High Peak are on the edge right now, being held out by quite a few teams, and I think they were a little bit worried they were being pushed, and that's why they're hunkering down at the moment.
Yeah, just making sure they've got somewhere to play from, just making sure that any team is aware of their presence, and even though you can see that young Hong Kong up on top of that building is taking a little bit of damage himself from the charge rifle, they do have the Valkyrie in the composition to reposition if they need to, but the danger is knowing that team across now has that charge rifle and that team is going to be 3 Muppets on the other side of this fight. It means it's so much more kind of a risk if they want to take to the sky, because that charge rifle with that hit scan ability, it's so easy to knock that Valkyrie, and all of a sudden you find yourself in a 2v3 hitting the floor even without your guns up.
Yeah, ever since we saw the Valkyrie changes, you have to time those rotations perfectly. You get so caught out with how long it can take sometimes to jet up into the sky. And you're completely right. I mean, a charge rifle is disgusting on any day, but when it is just an easy target in a straight line, it should be easiest for the worst of players, like myself. But now we are going to see in the next 50 seconds a lot of teams trying to make their way into this next circle. I count 1, 2, 3, 4, only 6 teams in the next circle out of the 13. So over the half the lobby still needs to move in. So those teams who are already in, the likes of Totem Esports, the likes of Fire Beavers, they are going to be able to get some extra KP if they are watching the right areas here.
I like the fact that we've had these different type of zones as well. We'll come back to that conversation, though. As you can see, the start of fight, unfortunately, looking to leave a fight at the moment as they take a little bit of damage. As 3 Muppets still moving through Jurassic Park, but here comes damage onto the back of Strongest. He's trying to get out of dodge. Plume is trying to hold the line for him, and he's going to do an amazing job as well. The flatline just snaps and manages to get that 70 damage down, which is just enough for them to reset here. Watson Fences will also help. The Horizon ult predicted from the other team to try and catch them as they went through that gate, but you can see the 3 Muppets now, their decision has been made for them. They have to slide down here, reset inside of this little cascade, and then they have to re-establish how they're going to try and move forward. Strongest still on that Valkyrie might be the play with that redeploy.
Sometimes the best form of defense is a good offense. Just making sure you put those shots down, let them know that you are there and you want to be heard as well. But that's going to be a great bit of aggression coming through. And V2 sweep up yet another team, adding to their kill point tally.
Yeah, really strong push that from V2. Did not let them reset whatsoever. 3 Muppets down on that low ground. Realized they had the initial damage. They had the best positioning they could ask for in that kind of 3v3 scenario. So taking advantage of it is always the most important thing to do, though. We always talk about advantage is great, but if you don't take advantage of that, then you're going to regret it as that game does progress. 20 seconds left until ring number 3 does close. We're down to just 11 squads, and it's just because of the lack of playable area here, Dan. Teams can't find anywhere to play, so everyone's just waiting on the edge.
Pioneers did lose 1. Naski went down. Did they get the res is the real question mark for me, but maybe we'll find out a little bit later because V2 are now making their move in as we're seeing more knocks happen and more shreds happening with the R301 here.
301 now, starting to have a little bit of an influence on this lobby. V2 move up to the bottom of this cannon. They got a little bit of playable cover, but it's not as comfortable as you want it to be. Joke is finding that out first hand at the moment as he's trying to pop a couple of shield cells, but he's just being peppered from left and right at the moment. And it's going to be cannon to cannon. They take the long route into the zone. Nibaside decides I'm going to come back again. It's a man cannon fest at the moment here.
And all the meanwhile, look at the positioning they hold themselves in right now. They're very vulnerable, but if they can hold out, if they can survive, they're in such a good spot. Doesn't look like they've got the ability, no. Don't have any sort of Watson to set up around them at the moment, but in the next minute or so, they can maybe hope that other teams will get taken down. But again, this R301 is absolutely insane with the shots that we're seeing hit right now.
155 is enough to make anybody smile. When you got the 301 in your hands and somebody just picks like that. Joke now going to try and do some damage. He's not going to be able to connect in quite the same way as his teammate, but this damage that they are outputting is going to get those shields up. Even though this is a very tough spot for V2 to be in, the fact they're doing damage, the fact they're getting more closer and closer to that red armor means if they do have to take a fight, which they will be forced to in the next couple of minutes, then they're going to be more equipped to do so. Now that fight is going to be behind them. Big shots coming in. The spray from the 301 finishes it off, and that is as clean as you like. Pioneers are eliminated.
Pioneers just trying to crawl into the circle after they had already lost a player, unfortunately, into a full health V2. But Aurora, who had already done the damage to Pioneers, they're going to be the team to try and come and clean up the pieces here. But Rad just goes down. There is a fight back here from V2. Aurora might even lose 2. And suddenly what looked like a perfect push is going to end up biting them in the backside. No. And V2 survive.
V2 survive. They hold the ground. They survive. But that zone closing behind them might be the end of it. V2 will be there in the death box, unfortunately. 7 squads now remaining as Reply Totem with a team to move up and just capitalize on the fights that break out in front of them. Now, having moved, they have the whole of the back of the zone clear. They know they only have to face forward. And Totem Esports now in a great position here, Dan, to just pick away at some of these teams inside, avoiding that CAQ. Important, just as was the only player who managed to do it, though. His 2 teammates unfortunately got pinged.
Well, there's 6 teams left. There is 4 buildings remaining in this circle, so there are 2 teams without a building, one of them being Totem. They are coming up onto that team just ahead of them, though, and they could, if they wanted to, try and dive on them if there was some damage coming from the other side. But it looks like everyone at the moment is just waiting and biding their time. Other teams in a good position. Ascend, they've managed to get into the southwest building and very much could be looking to try and go back-to-back here.
Ascend in a great spot, like you say. Back-to-back is something you should always be proud of in any lobby, let alone here in the Pro League. But for now, you can see the Totem Esports trying to set up a perimeter around this building, playing the backside of the fence. Here is where Ascend find themselves. Kind of overlooking everybody else. Everybody else you can see has got to maybe think to make a move at the moment. Postskill's going to be the kill leader in the lobby himself. 3 kills to his name. And 7 total kill KP again here to Ascend. So Ascend once again, after that second game, look like they're set up for even more points here before we even get towards World's Edge.
And Ascend really have been impressive with how they've navigated this circle as they've seen it close in as it has pulled south and then away from Barometer as well, where a lot of teams were banking on. Ascend have always been making the move to the best possible spot. They really know these zones well, and the building that they reside in now, there's going to be a little bit of a slither that stays in that circle, so they should be able to stay clear of any fights, or at least the next set of fights. Maybe they could watch from the windows, maybe they could do a little bit of damage and might pick up an extra bit of KP, but their eyes will be set on ensuring they get that victory now, which is about avoiding fights to begin with and joining those fights late as we get into that final circle.
Well, SAF at the moment, you can see just huddled around that Gen a little bit like a campfire at the moment. Unfortunately, nobody brought the acoustic guitar to maybe keep those nerves a little bit calmer and sing a little song. Instead, they're trying to work out how they move across that open ground. They kind of have to hope that Ascend do enough damage or Totem Esports take away enough of the attention from them so that they can make a move uncontested. Speaking of Totem Esports, they're going to have to make their move now. The zone is about to close behind them. Let's jump into a listening now with Totem.
Hold the door shop. Just go fence the door. He's on the door of a massive. Yeah, the massive on the door. Yeah.
Behind. Watson, knock. They're peeking.
Care inside.
There is a nade on me. Careful.
There's care inside. I have no nade.
The door is not
Care if they walk out. Yeah, care if they walk out.
I know, but they destroy the fence instantly.
Yeah.
Just look at the door. Amaz, look at the door.
Here.
I'm ulting the stairs. I'm ulting the stairs, I think.
We need to wipe this.
Yeah, wipe outside.
I got sucked. I might die. Look at bottom cells. Look at cells.
20,
they're
pushing. 80.
Crack the stairs.
Guys,
just keep looking at the stairs.
No, they're behind us.
I already ulted, by the way.
They're behind us.
Well, back into the action. Reply Totem do a great job of clearing the area, but now they're under so much pressure. Sharp down. Now it's up to Emea to try and pull off something amazing, and it's Ascend who make their move in, Dan.
Ascend make the move, but there's still one team left on the building as well. But Ascend are doing the damage. Reply Totem out. But who is still in that building? Hoodie manages to get a knock, but oh my goodness gracious, the damage from Ascend is insane right now.
Oh, that car is shredding, but look, gets the armor swap. He gets 123 as well, just when you thought he was going down. It's Ascend who stands tallest in game number 3. Back-to-back go Ascend with wins here on Stormpoint to close out those first 3 games. What a performance that was in the end game once again, Dan.